back for our core picks for this week's RSM Classic. And boy, last week was a slimy week for DFS. I mean, changing conditions from round to round. We had guys slipping up and down the board. Jason Kokrak almost missed the cut with a shitty round on Friday, yet still ended up going through for the win. So overall was a shit show for our player pool. I'm sure it was for a lot of you out there as well. So looking for a little bit of a bounce back here at the RSM Classic. So obviously with these core picks, going to be giving you guys I think have the best recent form coming into this event. Of course, also the best course fits as well. So using a data-based approach as always here on the channel to help identify some of the best plays. So with all the BS out of the way, let's hop right into it with our core picks for this week. Our sped up option, where we're going to be putting all of our chips this week, are going to be behind Webb Simpson. He's definitely a little bit pricey at $10,700, but if you pretty much designed a golf course for Webb Simpson's game, it would be Sea Island, because between the Plantation course and the Seaside course have an effective distance of just over 1,400 yards. So some of the shortest golf courses you see on tour. And if Webb ever has a problem, it's getting it out there. You know, one of the shorter hitters on tour. So not going to have to be dealing with that penalty for distance this week. And if we look at his performances here in the past, what's not to love? I mean, last year only finished 37th, which obviously feels a little bit disappointing. But he had a second place finish the year before that and a third place finish the year before that one. So nothing to complain about there. If we take a look at the recent form, comes in as the 8th ranked golfer in the field. And again, if we zoom out on Webb, we can see why that's the case. Didn't have a good performance 2 times ago. A lot of people really holding it out against him. Went out and missed a cut. But aside from that, he had a 19th place finish, a 15th, a 7th, 47th, 12th, 30th, that missed cut, and a 14th place finish. What is not to love about that consistency right there? You know, a lot of people are putting too much stock into that one performance, and with the elite course fit, I think he's going to be an absolute smash play this week. Next up, we have Talor Gooch as our second man in, and boy, he was a fade for us last week, so a little bit strange that we're going right back to him, but an even better course fit for Talor Gooch. And I think after that middling performance on the weekend, people are going to try and avoid him. You know, after round 1 last week, I was kind of really not feeling great about that. Fade we had a Gooch, went and shot 5 under par in some real tough conditions, but obviously faltered down the stretch. So a lot of people are going to be burned by him, even though he still made the cut, really didn't have a horrible week, still made a bunch of birdies. But just like a Webb Simpson, the only part of this game that's really missing is his distance. You know, one of these shorter hitters on the PGA Tour also isn't very accurate off of the tee, but boy, does he do everything else well. He's extremely good with his irons around the green, also a well above tour average putter. So with that type of course fit, I do expect him to play well here, but the recent form is really why we're excited to play Talor Gooch. Comes in as the 17th ranked golfer in the field, and arguably there is no hotter player in this field. Here are his last 7 starts, just for reference. 31st, 57th, 4th, 11th, 5th, 11th, 60th. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, posting 4 top 11 finishes. This guy's never been in that type of a streak before. So it's clear that he's found something in his game. He's been much better on approach, but been much more consistent with the putter that we've seen of late. And before that missed cut, right after that 7 streak right there, he had another 7 event made cut streak. So he's made 15 of his last 16 cuts on tour, showing the exact kind of consistency that we've already mentioned. So with him, you get that safety. You also get some top end upside, because boy, is this guy a good course fit. And that's why he's my second man in for this golf tournament. And next up, our bread and butter play is going to be Joel Dahmen at $8,500. And while the metrics don't look amazing in terms of his course fit, we had to do a little bit more thinking, a little bit of a deeper dive into it to see exactly why he is on this list. And it really comes down to his performance at the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. That was his first ever win on the PGA Tour. We're dealing with a relatively short resort-style course that featured quite a bit of wind. And while we don't have the wind forecast as of right now for Sea Island, it's a little bit too early to be digging into that kind of thing. You know, it changes every 6 to 10 hours, as it usually does with any type of weather forecast. Dahmen's always used to these windy conditions. We've seen it from time to time. He's able to go out, shoot 4 or 5 under par. And at the Seaside course, where that is going to be in play potentially for even 3 rounds, going to be absolutely money on that golf course. And at the Plantation course, you know, has a high enough birdie or better percentage to get by. It's one of the shorter hitters on tour. Like a lot of the other people on this list, you're going to see that's a trend here. That's not going to really hurt him as much as it would at other golf tournaments. Let's take a look at some of the other tracks he's played well at, aside from the Corrales. He also has top 10 finishes at the Mayakoba Classic, the Shriners, and the Farmers Insurance Open that are all short golf courses that I use as comps for Sea Island. But next up, his recent form, he comes in as the 6th ranked golfer in the field. That is again why we're playing Joel Dahmen, not only a good course fit, but a top 10 recent form fit. He's coming in off a 5th place finish at the Houston Open this weekend. It was very good over the weekend in terms of his ball striking. And not only was it a bad course fit, that was an extremely long golf course. He was coming with kind of middling form. he absolutely took it apart. So it's even more impressive than it looks like on paper. And it's hard for a 5th place finish to feel even more impressive unless it's a win. But so coming in with that great form, coming in making 11 of his last 12 cuts as well, showing that type of consistency is going to be one of my favorite plays on this entire slate. Brian Harman is going to be our value play, and boy, he's burned me quite a few times on this channel over the last few months, but I'm willing to buy back in on him, especially at this type of venue that fits his game perfectly. So he's going to cost you $7,800. Decent price tag right there, actually pretty cheap for the type of field that we have here. And in terms of course fit, comes in as the 45th ranked golfer in the field, and this play is almost completely a course fit angle. So those metrics are a little bit misleading. Obviously, the recent form weighted a little bit more than the historical form when I'm taking a look at a course fit. But overall, if we take a look at his career metrics at these short tracks, just this year, actually, he has a 5th place finish at the Travelers, a 13th place finish at the RBC Heritage, but long term, he has 9 top 10s at courses under 7,100 yards. So whenever we have these short golf courses that aren't penalizing him for his lack of length, you see Brian Harman filter to the top of the leaderboard. And why is that the case? Why? Because he's one of the best iron players in the world. He's also one of the best putters in the world. He's just atrocious off the tee. And at a golf course like we have at Sea Island, potentially at the Plantation course and Seaside course, he's going to be able to get away with that. So really like that there, like the approach way, like the putting, particularly on Bermuda grass as well. If we take a look at the recent form, we'll be quick here. It's been absolute dog shit, right? Number 133 in the field in terms of recent form. He's coming in with made cuts, missed cuts. Whenever he's even made cuts of late, they haven't been good finishes. His best finish was a T19 at the Open Championship just a few months ago. But just like some of the other people on this list, just like a lot of the value plays on this list, if we take a little bit of a broader approach with Brian Harman, we see exactly the type of golfer that he really is. So before that rough stretch, he had a made cut streak of 14 straight events. He had 9 top 20s in that stretch, and he hit a run of 8 straight top 20s. That is elite level stuff. There is almost no other players in this field, maybe 4 or 5 of them, that are even capable of going on that kind of a run. So while we've been burned of him on late, he's been on this core plays video 2 or 3 times the last month, and it seems like every time he's been here, he's missed the cut. I'm willing to buy back in on him. I'm not going to allow that personal bias to hold me back. I'm somebody who's a great course fit. We've seen an amazing stretch of form just really 3 or 4 months ago. He's not too removed from that. I find it hard to believe that he's completely lost his game or anything like that. So at $7,800, also projected to be relatively low owned as of right now, going to be my favorite value play for this slate. Next up, we have our diamond in the rough. That is going to be Brendan Steele at $7,000. He comes in with a decent course fit. You know, we kind of got to look into it a little bit more, like a few of the other people on this list. But the recent form has also been very stellar. So at $7,000, get pretty much checking all the boxes we're looking for. And just like all the other guys on this list, he's going to get away with his relative lack of distance. We've seen him tear up some of these short tracks in the past as well, most notably the Sony Open and Waialae Country Club. He had a 2nd place finish this year, a bunch of other top 5s. If you guys saw my course breakdown, you also know that Waialae is one of the best comp courses. It's also a short golf course. You're also dealing with coastal conditions, windy conditions. So I really like that comp, especially for the Seaside course this week. If we take a look at some of the other performances where he's played well at short tracks, it's been the Travelers Championship. He has 4 top 15s. Also at the Bermuda Championship, he also has a few other solid performances as well. So it shouldn't be surprised that he's found success at these kind of tracks in the past. Somebody who's extremely accurate off of the tee. Also can be good with the irons from time to time. And while he's not an extremely consistent player on approach, when he plays well on approach, he usually gains 5 or 6 strokes. So really like him in this type of instance. I think he's a relatively high upside play as well. And like we already talked about, the recent form looks really good. He had a 2nd place finish at the Zozo Championship, a T3 at the Honda Classic this year, also a 2nd place finish at the Sony Open this year as well. However, in between all of those starts, obviously those have been 2-3 months in between. There's been a lot of missed cuts, a lot of 50th to 60th place finishes when he's even made the cuts. So like I said, this is a very high upside play, but also a very high risk play. And when we're taking a look at GPPs, trying to take down a large field contest, he's not only going to give you plenty of leverage, but he gives you the kind of volatility you need to take down one of those large field events. So while he's not necessarily a cash play for me this week, trying to get leverage, trying to get a little bit more unique, he's giving me exactly what I'm looking for. So that's why he's my quote-unquote diamond in the rough. And not lastly, though, guys, our complete flyer pick. And I want to make this completely clear, guys. Anytime I have a flyer pick on the channel is just that, a flyer pick. Last week, that was Wyndham Clark. Obviously got out to a very hot start, ended up having a very good week, but he was high risk, high reward. We knew he had a very high missed cut equity in that type of event. Obviously, we were buying in on that distance. We were hoping that he found the approach play, which he brings about a third of the time. And with Dawie Van der Walt this week and even $6,000, it is just as much of a wild card. You can see that the metrics really like him. Comes in as a top 30 course fit ranking. Also in terms of recent form, he's top 30. But that's with a limited sample size. I mean, this guy, we have a total of 12 measured rounds on him over the last 2 years. Somebody who had his tour card 5 or 6 years ago, back in 2015, 2016, but was relegated to the Korn Ferry Tour and is just getting back to the PGA Tour. So while he's not necessarily a rookie, we can almost treat him as such, just because a lot of those shots gained metrics from 5-6 years ago were just so far out. But fortunately for Dawie, with the data that we have on him, we know that he's a decent course fit. If there's any part of his game that really holds him back, it is that distance. He's one of the shorter hitters on the PGA Tour, averaging just over 287 yards per drive, so actually exceptionally short. But at this golf course, Sea Island, that's just 7,000 yards. That is not going to hurt him as much as it would at other places. If we take a look at where he's played well, he's excellent on approach. He's consistently been a slight gainer on approach. Nothing crazy there, though, but he's been excellent with his short game, averaging over a quarter of a stroke per round gained around the greens and over half a stroke gained per round putting. It makes him a top 5 putter in this field. That's really why you see him popping in terms of the course fit in recent form. The only category he's slightly negative in is off the tee. You've already mentioned his lack of distance, and at most golf courses, he bleeds strokes off their tee. Here, at this golf course that's relatively short, here at the RSM Classic, I do expect him to be relatively close to neutral, and if he gains across those other 3 categories, like he's very used to doing, he's not only going to make a cut, but could very well put himself in contention. If we took a look at the recent form, finishes aren't beautiful to say the least, but the metrics like him. You know, he has 3 missed cuts. He has a 22nd place finish at the Fortinet. The reason why he's still 28th on this list is he's hardly missing cuts. He missed the cut on the number at the Sanderson Farms, and that was an exceptionally low cut line. He also missed the cut at the Houston Open and Bermuda Championship, but that was by a combined 3 strokes. So this guy, you know, has been close to making these cuts. If he made cuts at just $6,000, you know, $6,100, that kind of thing, we'd be talking about him in a completely different light. So while box score watchers are going to see those missed cuts, they're just going to leave him out of their pool. This guy's a good course fit. He's coming in with some sneaky good form. And we've seen his best career finishes back in the day, back in 2015, 2016. Those were at the Wyndham Championship and the Mayakoba Classic. 2 great comp courses here, short venues that should suit his game as well. That's all I've got for this week's core picks. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you guys have winning this golf tournament. You know I already got an outright bet on Webb Simpson. I'm not the type to go out put 5 or 6 golfers on my card. I usually load up behind one guy, try to stick to the DFS side of things. So for me, it's going to be Webb this week. But go ahead and let me know who you guys got. I always love to hear from you, and I always love to get some debate going down in the comments as well. We're going to have normal golf content coming throughout the week. We'll have our value picks. We'll have our fades and sleepers coming out. We're also going to have our weekly DFS live stream. That is going to be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. this time, so a little bit of difference there. I want to make sure I give people a chance to get their NBA lineups in, that kind of thing. It's that type of season for me as well. So we're going live at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening to go over the player pool, any weather impacts that we're going to have. We'll also talk about ownership, some game theory, and of course, any questions that you guys have down in the chat as well. So make sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss that. Make sure to leave a notification bell on that as well. I'll put a link down in the description so you guys can get notified when I go live, so you guys don't miss any of that. But until then, good luck with all of your lineups this week. If you guys haven't already liked the video, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you guys go ahead and do so. It really helps me out with growing the channel. But again, good luck with your lineups, and I'll see you guys next time.